Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to be with you once again. Let me start by doing a quick land acknowledgement. I'd like to acknowledge the indigenous land that we are holding this event on and the treaties that we are bound with. In the interest of time, I'll make this presentation very short and then leaves a lot of time for question and answer. And please, Marge, send a signal if I'm talking too long. No, thank you very much for this opportunity. It's great honor to be in a position that I'm in as the re-elected member of parliament for Richmond Hill to come back and talk to you about a topic that we heard over and over and over in 2015, in 2019, and in 2020. The impact of it at that time in back in 2015 was not, although it was highlighted, I don't think it was as well understood. What we've realized is that the cost of living as well as the cost of real estate ownership has gone drastically high to the point that not we as homeowners are concerned about whether we can afford to keep our houses, but also we're concerned about whether our children would be able to be in a I would like to use the word privileged position to be able to own their first home shortly after they graduate or they decide to sell for family. So on the topic of home ownership, I really like to cover about six different what I call pillars that needs to be considered. And some of it are part of the program that the government is rolling out or has been rolling out. Some of the other ones we need to make sure that we are pondering and we are advocating for it. The first and foremost issue that the six topics I'm going to cover for you. Number one is capacity, which is availability of home. Number two is affordability, both from a development point of view and also from buyer's income point of view. Number three, what I'm going to cover for you is time to market for increasing that capacity. Number four, I'm going to cover some of the incentives that have been rolled out and need to be considered. Number five, I'm going to cover the topic of foreign investment. And finally, I will cover as topic number six, I'm going to cover the um, topic of empowering the buyer and the seller in this whole process of ownership. So let's start quickly with the capacity. When we talk about the capacity, we know there is a shortage of capacity, especially in the urban area, especially in the area that's been the actual land is not as much available. And what is happening is what we're doing, we're looking at intensifying, which means building over and over, building a higher number of high rises. In there, there's discussions around whether those could be mixed use, which allows for affordable housing, allows for office space or professional space, and therefore allow us to be able to increase the capacity, but not only on the home ownership side, but also in the professional development side, as well as various levels of home affordability. Another issue within the capacity is making sure that there are rentals available. And rentals, a lot of people choose to move into the rental market to start, as I did, as I'm sure some of you did when you started, and then, get into the condo and then eventually buy the home that you desire. Also, there's a concept that there are a lot of capacity available, especially on more on the low income housing, and that they need to be refurbished so that they can be made available, so that will be increase the potential capacity. And also they're talking about a lot of conversion and rapid development. And when we're talking about conversion rapid development, there are a lot of buildings and there are a lot of um, let's say different purpose use real estate that could be converted. For example, hotels or motels that quickly could be converted into affordable units with a small kitchenette or a one bedroom that can be converted, and it allows people to get into the market. So the issue of capacity, it's always been there, and it gets worse as we get to the urban area. To bring us very quickly to Richmond Hill, when you look at it, we really don't have too much of land to be able to develop. So our major development, as you all know, is going to come north of 407 and south of 407 in that area, and there's going to be a lot of multi-purpose units made available. So I'll pause there in the interest of time and quickly go into affordability. So when we talk about affordability, we're talking about two things: development affordability, and we buyer being able to have the income to be able to affordable to be able to buy the units or buy the homes or the apartments within the area that they desire. So for example, we know if you're building condos way in the northern part of GTA, the price of the condo is going to be very different than the price of condo downtown Toronto. So there's an aspect that we need to make sure that we create jobs, full-time job, meaningful jobs for people to be able to get the income that's needed to be able to buy house. And that means a lot of things, looking at where those jobs need to be created, how do we support those, and also managing the inflation and interest rate. Now, on the development costs, as we know, we have to work with the municipalities, we have to work with the provinces, sorry, all levels of government have to work together to make sure that there are um, creative ways around making sure that the development cost is made affordable. So it translates into a much lower prices for the units that needs to be bought. So what happens is, and I'll move into the third point, time to market, and then I combine number two and number three together. So when you look at the development, when a developer buys a piece of land or is in a position to be able to benefit from a piece of land from, I don't know, various levels of government, what it does, it takes a long time, and it's a lot of money that's invested, whether it's for development charges, bringing electricity, sewer, all of those infrastructures, digital infrastructure, and electricity bringing into to the land, and then getting all the permits and the money that they have to put in there to be able to actually get the permit to build, and then managing the material cost and then the timing. So one of the things that we really need to do, we need to look at concept that we can make the development charges a lot more affordable, and also spread the development charges over a longer period of time. So that allows a possibility of being able to reduce the prices in making those homes or available. As I said, when you combine the affordability and time to market, and you combine the close relationship that all the levels of government needs to have together to be able to make lands available so provinces can provide, provincial, federal government can provide, and then with that land, which is a major cost of the development, is being made available. And then you look at it and you say, well, do we want a rental? Do we want to be able to develop affordable housing? So all of those will play a major role. Another pillar that I think is really important is what I call the incentives. Incentives is really provided for um, buyers as well as developers. Okay, we need to incentivize developers to develop, for example, rental properties, because the whole concept of rent to own is something that is now surfacing, and people are seriously considering. I'm going to start renting, and then I'm going to accumulate some down payment, and then I'm going to buy. So rent to own has become a topic of discussion. Also, first-time buyers, government partnership, especially federal government partnership, of about the 10% of the down payment, also allowing the new first-time buyers to be able to use their RSP as well as as open up a tax free that they can use to be able to put a down payment. I think what we've seen, and I think Harry would, David would be in a much better position to kind of expand on this, would be that once Canadians are in a position to buy their house, they default on the rate that they default on their mortgage is almost zero. So whoever buys a house, whoever can afford to buy a house, they usually maintain it and they don't default their mortgages, which is really good. That it positions us strongly that if we can provide those incentives for the first-time home buyers, then whether it's through the government partnership, whether it's through the tax-free, whether it's through RRSP, whether it's through um, some of the VTB. I mean, there are discussions around vendor take back. So if you look at it, if you can put your RSP, if you could take some $40,000, and if you could use a VTB from the government as well as a VTB from a developer, you potentially could buy a house with about 5% down payment and still use CMHC secured, which allows a lot of people to get into the market. Well, we need to kind of make sure that we kind of open up and include all of those. Foreign investment, quickly, what we need to do, we need to make sure that we manage the money that's coming to the country that's focused on development. Whether this is getting understanding that foreign investment, foreign equity funds coming in and buying a block and many blocks of what is to be developed or what is newly developed. What this does is it limits the number of units that are available. And that's number one for Canadian. Number two is that what it does is it allows them to be able to compete or hold on to the property. So for example, if it's a foreign investment company coming in and buying 10 floors in two buildings, okay, and basically limiting the capacity and then holding on to it for about 2 years, and then when the market comes in, they're trying to sell that. That is something that needs to be looked at. So I think in the platform for all parties, they've talked about some sort of an assessment for that, and also some type of property tax um, on top, or a surcharge tax for properties that bought by foreign investors but they've kept empty. God knows I knocked on so many doors that I noticed that the drivers are, the grass is cut, but there's nobody living in there, and that limits the capacity. And also, it's a way of basically parking foreign investment and keeping it secure. Yet it impacts our availability to increase the capacity. I'm not suggesting we should limit or eliminate foreign investment. Foreign investment is always needed, but managed foreign investment that helps building capacity rather than limiting the capacity should be looked at. And finally, I close with empowering the buyers and the sellers. A lot of our buyers, especially the first-time home buyers, are so rushed to get into buying a new place that really they don't take a step back and say, let me educate myself about what does home ownership means? How should I set my expectation? Can I afford to buy and maintain a house that probably my parents live, that has a backyard and has, I don't know, 6 feet sitting, and et cetera, et cetera. And also, one of the most important things in there is the blind bidding. We know there's a lot of blind bidding going on, which is what we call multiple offer, and you don't know what what's going on. And that's, houses come in at 200, $300,000 below market, and people bid on it, and all of a sudden it's sold for 6 or 700, and it causes a lot of stress in the market. So I'm going to stop. I know I kind of gave you guys a broad brush, but around capacity, around affordability, around time to market, incentives, foreign investment management, as well as empowering the buyers, those are really the 6 pillars that we really need to look at as an ecosystem, to be able to make sure that we can address the home ownership.